Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is a story about what if Naruto x Gardevoir in Pokemon. Before I start, please support for more amazing content and do consider subscribing to my channel and share this video with your friends. This is written by Arrexu, link in description and support writer. Let's start the video. Snow Point City was such a cold place to live in. Even for Sinnoh natives, it was quite hard to live there. Only when you were raised there would you be able to tolerate the cold. Just like Namikaze Naruto. He was a 6 almost 7-year-old boy who could go with a simple shirt and shorts on such a freezing day if he so wished, but the same couldn't be said about his now dead mother. Namikaze Kushina, formerly Uzumaki, died of illness that was pretty common yet uncommon in the mountains. Something like this would have been normal for most people in Snow Point City, but she was affected quite harshly for it cause she wasn't used to the cold. You see, Naruto's parents came here for a vacation 7 years ago. To visit his father's birthplace. It was about a month into the vacation when his father died because of a car crash. A day before his death was when he found out that he would become a dad. Kushina, overcome by sadness, went out that day with nothing but a nightgown, searching for the car his dad had used, even though it was miles away. It was loaded with medicine that was supposed to heal her. The cold affected her and made her ill, and her immune system wasn't strong enough to protect her. Kushina was an average coordinator born in Hoenn. But sometimes, she also battled some gyms. Now, Naruto's last living relative was dead and he cried as he stood in front of his mother's grave. Snow fell upon the small town. It may have been called a city, but that was just because of some myths said to have happened thousands of years ago. The graveyard Naruto found himself at was actually a hill. Not many were buried here because of possible avalanches. Namikaze Minato, Naruto's father, always dreamed of being a part of Snow. That's why he was buried here and his mother wanted to be buried beside her husband. The hill also made it possible to overlook the small town called Snow Point City. So when Naruto looked at the poor condition his hometown was, he gritted his teeth and clutched something in his hand. Or rather 3 things in his hands. They were his mother's last gifts to him. One was a single pitch black shiny earring, another was a dawn stone she had won in her first ever competition against Minato. And the last was a master ball. Naruto swore that he would treasure his mother's gifts and made a silent promise as he looked at his beautiful city. 3 years later, Naruto flew to Hoenn to start his journey there. The age requirement back in Sinnoh were up to 13 after the death of a 12-year-old when Naruto was 8. Age requirements are being upped in the other regions as well. Meetings are being held between the champions and the league owner who sponsors for all who can't afford a starter. What? You think they're free? How else would Pokemon researchers get rich and afford flights for their trainers when necessary? Selling information and introducing new subjects and new discoveries are a few ways for them to get money. The wealthiest man in the world sponsors all the leagues and gives the money he gained there for all those who can't afford to start their own journey. Due to unwanted deaths and accidents, did they finally decide to change the age requirements for people to start their journey safely and have more experience? Took them 3 decades as well, Naruto thought, looking out of the window. He currently was on a plane nearing the Hoenn region. You had to be 13 to start a journey in Sinnoh as far as Naruto knew. The meetings were still underway to decide what your age must be in other regions though, and they just so decided to start with Sinnoh. Naruto finally arrived in Hoenn. At first he decided to travel through Kanto, but realized that it was a dumb idea. The champion there was known to be the strongest of 2 leagues and by default, strongest trainer in the world. You see, Kanto and Johto were 2 neighboring regions. So they decided to collaborate with each other and have one single champion for 2 regions. Of course the standard 8 gyms and 4 elites were still there, making it 16 gyms and 8 elites to defeat before even thinking about challenging the champion. Naruto was sure that he wouldn't grow in a place like that. Amateurs wouldn't go far unless you have 2 years of experience. He would start here, in Hoenn, where his mother started her journey. Naruto stood in front of Route 102. Petalburg City where the plane landed behind him. Naruto was a spiky blonde ocean blue-eyed boy who also has a black backpack slung over his back. Naruto wore a black turtleneck shirt with neon blue accents, whose sleeves were a bit too long, so his hands were always hidden. He also wore black baggy pants with neon blue stripes at the sides, which were tucked into white medical bandages at the ends. Black shoes with neon blue accents accompanied his outfit. Last but not least were his own trademark dressing habits. The first was the face mask that covered half of his face, which had 3 whisker marks on each cheek. The second was his white zip-up sweater that he always tied around his hip, making him look like he's wearing a man's skirt. And the third was the earring his mother had given him. The earring was formed like an hourglass which Naruto wore on his left ear. He was currently on his way to meet Professor Harold Birch to sign himself up for the league and get his starter. It was nearing night time when he hit the road. Naruto thought about how he should continue his life. He planned to do everything possible like battling gyms and joining contests. But being a champion or a top coordinator isn't his goal. They're more like stepping stones and learning experiences for him. To achieve my dream, this is the hardest and only way, Naruto thought. He then thought about which Pokémon he should catch, cause catching every Pokémon left and right isn't all that smart. He planned to have at least 20 Pokémon, but that can come later. Naruto never really planned what Pokémon he should have in his first ever team, but being a bit picky is a must. He couldn't just capture any Pokémon he sees, correct? He actually wanted to go back to Sinnoh and get himself the pre-evolution of Frostless. You can't fault him. Being raised on a mountain makes you love ice types. Meh. I'll just see what fate has to offer. It was then that his musings were interrupted. Get out of the way, kid. Two men wearing a long-sleeved black shirt, matching pants and black boots shoved Naruto out of their way. A rather noticeable sign was the capital S printed on their shirts. It was colored emerald green. Naruto wondered what they were doing in the forest, of course, maybe to catch Pokémon, but they look way too suspicious for that. Naruto decided to investigate further and turned to the forest they just came out of. Naruto entered it and rushed ahead. He couldn't really navigate through the thick forest cause he went too far inside after some time, so he decided to climb a tree and tree hop forward. It was when he entered a clearing that he saw something that would haunt him for a long time. Naruto gasped at the sight. It was a Gardevoir laying face down. Its white grass-looking body covered in a weird red substance. Naruto rushed to it and examined it. He then turned it around and saw the most gruesome sight he had ever seen. He couldn't take it anymore. Naruto stood up from his crouching position and took a few steps back. He turned around and vomited the taco he ate at the plane. Hey, shudder. Trust me. Plain food is not cool, man. He drank some water to get the nasty taste off of his tongue. He then returned to Gardevoir and looked at its wound again. He almost vomited again. The Gardevoir had a hole through its abdomen and was losing blood at a fast pace. Naruto wrapped her up and tried to help all he could, but it wasn't enough. Naruto's expression showed absolute sadness when he looked at the Gardevoir. But when it twitched, his face showed a sign of relief and awe. The Gardevoir opened its eyes and looked at him. It looked relieved to see him somehow. Naruto thought that it was because it knew that it was being saved. But no, the Gardevoir looked at him and gave him two things from under her dress. The first was a violet pokeball with an eye on the middle. Where it got it, Naruto didn't know. He knew what it was. He studied everything he could about Pokémon when he turned 5, and even then, Naruto continued to learn. A mind ball is very expensive and rare to find in markets. The fact that she has this pokeball is astounding, he thought, looking at the mind ball, specifically designed to capture psychic types. But why would it give these things to me? Naruto thought, confused. The Gardevoir then held her hand out. A pink-purple aura appeared before it. Suddenly, another Pokémon appeared out of the aura. Naruto guessed that the move used to do that was teleport. Naruto's eyes widened to the size of pizza plates. Cause sleeping on Gardevoir's hands was a Ralts with a weird color scheme. Naruto knew all too well what those were. A Pokémon with a different color scheme from the norm. They're called shiny. The Ralts was a special Ralts with a blue helmet instead of the ordinary green. Gardevoir then painfully gave the shiny Ralts to Naruto. It looked at him calmly before its eyes glowed orange before closing again. Naruto didn't realize it, but his blue eyes glowed a bit before returning to its original color. It was far too quiet in the forest now. As if it knew that it lost something wonderful. The sun long since passed the horizon, finally showing a clear night sky. A warm breeze passed Naruto's face as he stared at the now dead Gardevoir. Slowly but surely, Gardevoir's remains turned to violet-pink particles. It was a sad thing to see. He couldn't even bury her. Yeah, it was probably a she. Naruto thought as he looked at his hands. No self-respecting male would carry a ribbon with him. Naruto smiled. Not that anyone could see, cause of his mask and the fact that there's nobody here except him and the Ralts. He pondered what could have happened to the Gardevoir. It was then that it hit him with a ton of bricks. Those men. Naruto narrowed his eyes. They must have known about the Gardevoir mothering a shiny. This Ralts was their goal, but why so much trouble for a different colored Ralts? This doesn't make any sense. With a sigh, Naruto looked at the still sleeping Ralts. Naruto then went around to check the perimeter to secure his camp and maybe find some berries if he was lucky. While leaving, he never saw the twitch that came from Ralts' body. For an open field in the middle of the forest, it seems pretty safe to me. Naruto expected to have encountered a Pokémon or 5 by now, but all he saw were signs of battle. Scorch marks, dents on trees, even a few body-shaped holes on the ground. What could have possibly happened here? He thought whilst touching a scorched patch of wood. More importantly, who were those people? Naruto sighed. Looks like I'll have to stay here for an extended period of time. You see, Naruto never planned to stay in Hoenn for long. He planned to travel it a bit for 3 to 4 months before flying to the next region, but this mystery is plaguing his mind right now and he wanted to know where this leads to. If curiosity killed the cat, then it has 8 more chances to learn. Of course, he still had his dream to accomplish, and that can't really wait. Meh, I'll just do both at once. Maybe a journey here in Hoenn wouldn't be that bad. Naruto looked up to the clear night sky where he stargazed for a second. It really is quiet here. He was about to return to his camping spot, but he saw something that made him try and look more closely at the sky. It was obviously flying and serpentine-like in body. More importantly, it was black and was probably very big if he could see it from here. Naruto knew what Pokemon it was. He'd be dumb not to recognize the Rayquaza. Heh, first day into my journey and I meet a shiny Rayquaza. Naruto smiled at the thought. He then returned to his camp only to see Ralts awake and looking at the sky in wonder. Naruto slowly but surely walked towards it. Ralts shied away as Naruto sat beside it. He just smiled and offered it a berry he found in the woods. Ralts looked away and kept turning its head, looking at everything in sight as if searching for something. It then squeaked its name. It was at this point that Naruto knew what it was that this Ralts was searching for. It was searching its mother. He then calmly looked at the Ralts and lowered his right hand with the offered food. Inner conflict, which was comically displayed as a war, was seen inside Naruto's head. Should I tell her the truth? No, that would traumatize it. Naruto had this awful desire to scream in frustration. The Ralts was searching for answers, and as he was its solution book, Ralts looked at him. Even though Naruto couldn't see its eyes, he could practically feel those doe-like innocent eyes behind its blue hair. It was 3 minutes later when Naruto had decided what he would do. It was a decision that Naruto would come to regret. Ralts, as you can see, your mother is not with us. At this he paused, and Ralts looked on innocently. Naruto could see that she wouldn't know the double meaning behind his words, cause it was still young. What would you expect from a child? Ralts, your mother gave you over to me in hopes of me raising you. You see, there is an evil organization that she had to defeat, and she couldn't just carry a child with her. Naruto knew that this was rather far-fetched and unbelievable, but hey, try telling a kid that your mother had died. Naruto then thought about how he found out that his own mother had died. The people in Snowpoint were 2BLUNT'2. Naruto's sweat dropped at the thought. His thought process was interrupted by a close to tearing up Ralts. Ralts, your mother didn't abandon you, she just didn't want you to get hurt while she's fighting. Ralts squeaked its name in confusion. It understood what the human told it, but it didn't help ease the pain in her chest. So it tucked her knees together and hugged them in an attempt to calm itself. A few minutes later did it finally fall asleep. Naruto sighed. He knows all too well what this Ralts will go through, he just didn't know when. I can't leave her here, it's too dangerous for her, especially when trainers pass through. I'll take it with me and tell her the truth once she has evolved into Gardevoir or Gallade. I wonder what its gender is. As with these last thoughts, Naruto took Ralts and carried it to his tent where he then fell asleep. He never saw or heard of something leaving the area. Naruto woke up early in the next morning. He yawned and searched for the shiny Ralts that's accompanying him for the time being. He smiled when he saw it sleeping like a baby should. It was probably still a few weeks old, but baby Pokemon grow up fast. It's a universal law that just cannot be changed. Of course, if the Ralts want, Naruto can train it with a few restrictions like not battling other Pokemon. If Ralts comes with him, he wouldn't let it battle for a few more weeks. 3 maximum, Naruto concluded. I'll think about it later, but for now time to cook breakfast. With that, Naruto silently left the tent, not wanting to wake Ralts up. Naruto decided to have some bacon and some scrambled eggs for breakfast and decided to give Ralts some berries. In the tent, a blue-haired feeling Pokemon woke up due to the smell of something good. Ralts stood up and followed the smell in trance. Naruto heard some shuffling in the tent and wondered if Ralts had woken up. He smiled when he saw Ralts walking up to him as if in hypnosis. He gave Ralts the berries he had cut into pieces to make it easier for Ralts to eat. Ralts delicately took the plate and looked back to Naruto as if asking for permission to eat. Naruto continued to smile, something that's starting to confuse Ralts, and shooed Ralts away with his hands, gesturing for it to eat. Ralts ate in front of the tent and content Naruto a few ways in front of her. As they continued to eat, Ralts longingly looked at Naruto's plate cause her berries were all gone. Naruto saw this and wondered if it's okay to give Pokemon human food. Meh, there's a first for everything, right? Naruto then went over to Ralts and held up a spoon with scrambled eggs for her to eat. Ralts hesitantly got closer to the spoon and slowly opened its mouth. It then flinched away, scared that the spoon would eat her instead. Naruto just smiled and ate the scoop himself. The look on Ralts' face was hilarious. It looked so devastated that the food was gone now. It even squealed its name in despair multiple times. Naruto chuckled and went to get the leftover eggs and bacon from the pan. Whilst Ralts was on the verge on crying, it calmed down as soon as it saw another spoon of scrambled eggs in front of it. Ralts looked at Naruto for permission. Naruto just smiled and held the spoon closer to it. This time, Ralts took the offered food and immediately loved it. Naruto gave her the plate and let her eat herself. Ralts was disappointed with something but didn't know why. As it ate, Naruto went on to pack his tent and clean up the clearing. When he finished, he saw Ralts using psychic to hold the spoon in front of it and feeding itself quite awkwardly. Naruto I smiled to hide the surprise in his eyes. He walked over to Ralts and took the spoon right before it could take another bite. Psychic, very impressive for someone as young as yourself. Naruto looked at the spoon as he said so, not seeing Ralts beam at the praise. But using it to feed yourself is kinda wrong, and Ralts' joy was crushed, it felt like crying. If you want to be fed then I'll gladly do it for you Ralts. Naruto chuckled and offered her another spoon of scrambled eggs. Ralts smiled in joy and expressed it by squealing her language name in joy. They left the clearing after breakfast. Ralts followed him because that was the better option, and the fact that it liked Naruto was one of the reasons she followed him as well. Ralts have always been a good judge of character after all. Beautiful sceneries passed them as they walked, some were big flower fields where Naruto saw a weird black flower with red accents. He narrowed his eyes because of the sun blending him and tried to search for the flower again. The next thing he knew the flower was gone. Probably just my imagination he thought. Naruto entered Oldale Town after a 2-hour walk and decided to restock. Before entering though, Naruto decided to carry Ralts so that trainers wouldn't think about catching it. As he walked through the city, Ralts curiously looked at everything in sight, be it buildings, shops, restaurants, food and whatnot. The thing that interested it and confused it the most though, were the Pokémon that came out of Pokeballs. Ralts turned to Naruto and voiced her confusion. At first Naruto didn't understand what Ralts was saying, but soon understood that she wanted to know more about Pokeballs once she pointed to a trainer that just released his own Pokémon. I smiled. Well Ralts, those round objects where the Pokémon come out of are called Pokeballs. They're meant to show which Pokémon belongs to whom so that other trainers can't capture them. As a matter of fact, I'm carrying you now so that other trainers won't try to catch you, Naruto explained before being interrupted by Ralts squealing its name in confusion. Well, there are bad people out there that would either catch you to sell you off somewhere you wouldn't like that right? Ralts shook its head sideways very quickly and tried to bury its head into Naruto's chest. It hurt a bit because of its horn, but Naruto didn't say anything. He just opted to continue his lecture. He realized that he already was in the market and walked, as if on autopilot. Those Pokeballs as they are called, Naruto said, making sure that Ralts remembers the term. Are also safety precautions for when someone has strong Pokémon and becomes evil. With a system like that, the league can take Pokémon from their trainers, but only then, when the correct reasons are met. So it means that every trainer is monitored by the league. Ralts still seemed not to understand, so Naruto decided to give it an example. He took some Pokeballs from the shelf as he started to explain things to Ralts. For example, if I catch you now then that would mean that the league won't be able to track or take you from me. That would make you my Pokémon. But if I captured you after getting signed up for the league, then they can take you from me the moment I turn evil. Naruto looked at Ralts to see if it was understanding what he said. It seems that Ralts did and went on to its next question. She then pointed at a weird device a boy was holding in front of a Torchic. Naruto I smiled again. Those are called Pokédexes Ralts. Those are what bound trainers to the league. They enable trainer to see stats of Pokémon and moves they can learn and pretty much everything you can think of. The price for such information is that the professors you got it from will be able to see what Pokémon you will eventually find and also be able to block access to one's Pokémon. For example, I turn bad and use a Pokémon I captured after getting the Pokédex, then they can confiscate said Pokémon when I order it to do something that's outside our laws. While doing that, they can also take one's trainer license. Ralts looked very confused at the new term and voiced it as much. Naruto chuckled and continued to lecture it. The trainer's license is what allows people to become trainers or coordinators in the first place. To get one, you fill in information about yourself online or on paperwork which will then be sent into a database, you could say. After that, it'll be connected to a Pokédex. So whenever someone catches a Pokémon, data of said Pokémon which is easily scanned within the Pokeball will be merged with the human's own data, which was the form you filled out in paper that was then sent to the Pokédex. This merged data will then be transformed into a code. This code enables a Pokeball to function. You with me? Ralts nodded and waited for more information. This Ralts is very smart for one so young to understand all this. I'm young as well, but certain things force one to grow up faster. I smiled at Ralts and continued his lecture. Naruto already finished his shopping and went to Route 101 towards Littleroot Town. As I was saying, the code is a mixture of the Pokémon's data and the human's data. If one's missing then the Pokeball will malfunction and won't open. In short, taking the license is taking the human data. Taking the Pokédex is taking the Pokémon's data. Ralts was amazed at the system humans had created and was also quite unnerved. This system makes the Pokémon and the humans not really free. What if you have to do something bad to someone to do something good for someone else? They reached a clearing with a single big tree in the middle, an hour after he left Oldale Town. Naruto put Ralts down and left it to play with some toys he bought in the shop, mostly puzzles. After making sure that Ralts had fun, Naruto went on to cook them a meal. They quickly hit the road after lunch, which were sandwiches and berries, and continued to travel to Littleward. On the way, Ralts had a final question for Naruto. It drew a ball in the air with its hands and pointed at Naruto, then back at itself. "You want to know what happens if I capture you, no?" Okay, Ralts didn't really meant that but was still curious about it, so it listened. "I did explain that for a Pokeball to function, it must have a code mixed with the human's data and the Pokemon's data. Now that only applies when the trainer owns a Pokédex. Because that's where the trainer's data comes from and is at the same time linked with the Pokeball a trainer owns. After all, every trainer buys Pokeballs with a dex since you automatically get money if you win. The money is safely banked in the dex after winning against an opponent. If I were to capture you now without owning a dex, then you'll be my Pokemon. The league would have no influence over you cause the data and the Pokeball is yours and yours alone. That means that you don't need my own data to open it." Ralts smiled, nobody can take it away from Naruto when he catches it now. Ralts then jumped on Naruto's shoulders and opened his bag. It took out a violet Pokeball and jumped back down in front of Naruto. His look was equivalent of a mother catching their daughter doing it with their boyfriend. "You want me to catch you?" It nodded in agreement and even squealed shyly. "If you do this then you're the one choosing your trainer, cause essentially, you decide when to open the ball or not." It just let itself get captured without struggle. Ralts quickly came out of it though and took the mind ball from the floor. It shyly walked over to Naruto and looked away as she held her Pokeball in front of her for Naruto to take. Naruto took it with an eye smile. He pocketed it in neat in front of Ralts. Patting its head, Naruto told her. "I swear I'll train you to be the greatest Pokemon ever, a Pokemon that can go toe-to-toe with legendary Pokemon. And I'll make sure to take care of you." Naruto I smiled at the blushing Ralts. Ralts then jumped at Naruto and hugged him. "I'll tell you the truth when you're ready," he thought with a little bit of guilt sapping his mind. He had to tell it about its mother. But for now. "Oh my," Naruto laughed sheepishly and looked at the Ralts still hugging him. "I still haven't introduced myself, did I?" Ralts timidly let go and took a step back before looking at its new trainer. "My name is Namikaze Naruto. A pleasure to meet you," he said. Ralts then pointed at itself trying to tell Naruto what it wanted. He was confused at what Ralts wanted, a toy maybe. He thought. It all went clear thought when Ralts wrote the word name on the dirt ground. "You want a name?" Naruto I smiled as it nodded. "Unlike other trainers who nickname their Pokemon nonsense, I give them a meaning. So first and foremost Ralts, are you a guy or a girl?" It nodded its head when Naruto said girl. "So you're a girl then. What should I name you?" he thought though after 5 minutes, Naruto knew what her name should be. "Shizuka," he said quite slowly too. Ralts squeaked, confused at the choice but still happy. "Your name's Shizuka. Because we met on a silent summer." Ralts happily agreed with the choice. "So what do you think? Was it good? If there are any grammatical errors then please tell me. I don't have a beta tester yet, so that's why it might get crappy." After a few hours of travel, Naruto and Shizuka finally reached Littleroot town. Naruto entered the town with Ralts sitting on his shoulder. The shiny emotion Pokemon was timidly looking at the people around it with a hint of curiosity. Naruto just calmly walked towards the destination in mind. It took a few curves and turns for him to finally stand before the lab. Ralts was already in her Pokeball to avoid attention. He looked around the lab once he was inside and what he saw was pretty much what he expected a lab should be. A counter at the front, a Pokemon habitat at the back which he could see through glass windows and mechanical devices that he didn't know which did what. He also noticed a man with a lab coat walking towards him. "Well, hello there, young man, is there something I can do for you?" the man asked politely. "Professor Birch, I assume, the one who specialized in the correlation of Pokemon habitats in conjunction of human existences." It seemed like a question to the 176 centimeters tall man, but was actually a statement. Naruto knew who this man was. "Yes, that's correct." The man had his eyes slightly raised in surprise. Youngsters wouldn't know about that particular info these days. "I'm surprised that you know." The man then laughed. Naruto just gave a nod in return. "I know when to study, sir." The man gave a boisterous laugh that resonated around the lab. "I assume that you're here to get your starter. Have you filled the necessities and all that paperwork crap?" The man got his answer through a stiff nod from the masked 10-year-old. The 34-year-old was a bit disturbed by the boy's appearance. Dark and face mask doesn't scream assassin. No, not at all. "Well, follow me, young man," the man said, gesturing towards the fields outside. Naruto nodded and followed the man. Once there, Naruto silently observed his surroundings and noticed the high amount of wildlife with a few Pokemon scattered here and there. His attention was then taken by the man beside him. Naruto also wondered why he took him outside as it didn't make any sense. He opted to wait and be patient. "Since you already know me and my field of expertise, why don't you introduce yourself, young man?" The Pokemon should be here anytime now. The professor said, wanting to know the kid's name. The Pokemon? You mean the starters? Why should they be here? Naruto asked, not quite getting the point. Well, you see, my kids are kinda playing with them and are, you could say, reserving them for themselves, the man said, sheepishly scratching the back of his head. Naruto stood silently with his hands hidden in his pockets. I see, my name is Naruto Namikaze. It's nice to meet you, Professor Birch. The man smiled brightly at Naruto, which made the blonde smile ever so slightly as well. They talked a bit more to get to know each other, only problem was that the conversation was pretty much one-sided. It was basically just Birch asking questions and Naruto answering everything in simple yeses and nos. Here they are, Mr. Namikaze. Naruto simply nodded as he'd already seen two kids. One was a boy and the other a girl. The boy wore a simple white shirt under a green jacket. He also had brown hair and matching eyes. Walking beside him was a Trico and a Mudkip. The girl, though, wore a frilly orange dress and black sandals. She has hazelnut short hair with bangs framing her chubby face. On her hands was Torchic, who was enjoying the attention it received from the young girl. Hey dad. What are you doing outside? I thought you were busy. And who's the masked kid beside you? The boy said in a loud cheerful voice. Before Birch could answer either questions, the girl bobbed her head and looked up at him with her doe-like eyes. Don't tell me. Are we finally allowed to become Pokemon trainers? Please say yes, daddy. Her puppy-like eyes made the professor, who was surprisingly their father, squirm in discomfort. He couldn't deny his daughter anything. She was just that cute. But there are some exceptions. And this was one of them. I'm sorry, princess, but you know our deal. It's not the right time yet. Ah, whoa man. Was heard by the girl and boy respectively. So what are you doing here then? The boy asked in confusion and childlike curiosity. Well, there's a new trainer who needs a starter at this, he gestured towards a silent Naruto. The kids had fear in their eyes, the three starters showing the same expression. Now then, Mr. Namikaze. You can now choose. The man didn't get to finish his sentence as he was interrupted by a loud voice, or should I say loud voices. Nuo. Said the girl. You can't just take them away from us. They're our best friends. What she said. Birch sighed and was about to lecture them once again about why starters are given to new trainers and all that, but Naruto spoke up before he could. Professor. Are there any other starters you have for me? He asked. He saw the love the two kids most likely his age had for their Pokemon. It was something he could respect them for. Unfortunately, no. You're the last one to become a trainer this year, and those who apply this month will have to wait for another month or two to finally become a trainer or coordinator themselves. Wow, he got extremely lucky. Note to self. Remember to thank Nurse Joy at Snowpoint City for financing my trip. The two kids his age widened their eyes at the new information presented to them. They didn't want for one of their friends to leave. They promised to go on an adventure together, and damn it, that's a promise they'll keep. But right now, they're powerless and couldn't do snag about it. So they just hugged their friends for dear life. Now then, young lad, please choose your starter. The kids in front of Naruto, which he guessed were siblings, started to cry, which made the Pokemon follow suit. Naruto sighed. It wasn't like him to do this since he actually paid for this, and the money can't be returned after paying beforehand. He didn't actually pay for it, but Nurse Joy did, and he'd be damned if he didn't pay her back. But seeing the bond these kids have for the Pokemon, he just couldn't sever that bond by taking one of them. I'll take. The kids waited for the worst day of their short life to come true. None. 5 pairs of eyes were looking at him in surprise and, not really, hidden relief. Another pair showed complete understanding and surprise. But the girl stuttered. Shock still affecting her, making her incapable of speaking, much less conversing with. Naruto, though, just ignored her, opting to talk to the professor, who by then managed to get his wits together. Professor Birch. If you don't mind giving me the current necessities. I'll be on my way after I receive them. Birch was surprised at the kid's vocabulary. Extraordinary, maybe, just maybe. No, it's too early to judge, Birch thought. He still nodded at the boy to show him that he would follow protocol. He quickly went back to his lab, expecting Naruto to follow. Hey. Wait a second. What's your name? Birch merely continued in a moderate pace towards his lab as he saw his son take the masked boy's attention. Isn't it common courtesy to introduce oneself first before asking another? What? Naruto sighed and turned his full attention to him. This kid must be really retarded to not understand that, or was he too smart? Meh. He meant that you should introduce yourself, big brother. Well, looks like the girl has a head on her shoulders after all. I'm Brendan Birch and this is my sister May. What's your name? Said the now dubbed Brendan. May just grumbled about older brothers introducing their sister, even though she could do it herself. Naruto paid it no mind though, and just introduced himself formally. My name is Naruto Namikaze. It is nice to make your acquaintance. If you would excuse me with that. Naruto left the siblings to their own devices and followed after the professor. not caring at the fact that they didn't understand slack about what he said except for his name. Big words weren't their forte it seems. I'm underestimating myself quite a bit here. It's not like they're taught to be formal like I was as Naruto thought. Formality was something his mother had taught him once he asked about what kind of man his father was. Kind, respectful, serious, cunning, etc. It was something he aspired to be yet still try and keep his mother's big heart. Here you go lad. 1 Pokédex informal entry to the Hoenn Legio and the 6 Pokeballs. If I may Naruto interrupted to speak himself. I already have Pokeballs. All I really need is the dex and I'll be on my way. At least take this to compensate for your payment. But that said, Birch gave him a rectangular monocle glass. Unlike normal ones, the one Birch gave him was designed to fit the wearer's left eye. The glass itself frames his eye quite nicely, a little bit on the big side though. It's a sort of eyewear that makes Naruto a little cautious. I wonder if there are hidden LCDs and trackers in this thing. Professor, what exactly does this thing do? He asked. If his theories are correct, then he was one hell of a lucky kid. Birch didn't answer the question outright, opting to observe the kid in front of him who was inspecting his masterpiece. Naruto spoke up before he could answer though. This seems to be like some kind of navigator no. More like a database, is it a practical HUD? Absolute shock was written on Birch's face. Impossible. A simple look over and he found out what it is, of course not entirely, but still most kids would just gape in awe or say cool and just ask him what it is afterwards. But Naruto, he is different. Birch coughed in his hands to glush the shock out of his system. Well yes, it is in fact a database, it's also so much more. Naruto raised an eyebrow at Birch's prideful tone when he said that. Would you mind explaining a bit more of it, Professor? He asked. Well, of course not. My masterpiece is not for simpletons, but I believe that you're perfect for it, he said in his boisterous tone. This little thing can distinguish which Pokémon lives in which habitat. So every time you look at a specific spot, this thing I call visor shows you exactly which Pokémon you can find there, and yes, it's a heads-up display so to speak. It also shows which gender the Pokémon is and the moves it has learned. It also gives night vision at least for one eye. Of course it's not yet perfected, but I think that you're able to complete it. This is just a prototype though, so rest easy and take it, the man said after seeing Naruto almost deny the object. If it's okay with you, Naruto said hesitantly. He gingerly took the object and inspected it for a bit before packing it inside his backpack. He was impressed with the device but disappointed at the same time. He expected it to be better. For example, it should be able to show what moves the Pokémon can learn and if it owns any egg moves. Something like that. Maybe Naruto could upgrade it, but he can cross the road when the time comes. Thanks Professor, I'll be on my way. No problem lad. Oh, and one more thing. I thank you for letting my kids keep those Pokémon. They're very special to them. Naruto had a smirk hidden behind his mask. When will they start their journey, Professor? Naruto was quite interested in the Birch siblings. They seem quite okay to him. I will let them have their adventure in 3 years. That way, they'll be able to know most of the stuff related to Pokémon. I see, I'll come back to Hoenn after 3 years. Until then, see you soon, Professor. With his part said, Naruto left the ranch and was on his way, leaving the Birch family. Naruto decided to go off course and skip the road that leads to Oldale Town. Instead, he took the more daring and direct route towards Petalburg City. Oldale Town was a very small town, but still very enjoyable to live in. He heard rumors about some sort of old ruins last time he was there. But enough of that. Realizing that he reached a clearing with a pond, Naruto released his first Pokémon. It looked around in confusion before Shizuka returned its focus to Naruto. Naruto smiled at how cute his partner is. He was one lucky kid, alright. I was planning to train you now, Shizuka, but only moves related to evasion and support. How does that sound? Shizuka nodded weakly with a small smile on her face. Naruto put on his newly acquired visor, which made Ralts look at him in confusion. He looked at his Ralts to see if the monocle showed any Pokémon stats. But to his disappointment, it did not. It was to be expected, but one could dream. Naruto sighed and scanned Shizuka with the dex instead. Birch will find out that his first find was a Ralts, a shiny one at that. Though he will never find out that I coughed at Naruto, then focused at the task at hand. He listened to what the dex had to say about his Ralts. Ralts, the feeling Pokémon. It senses the emotions of other people and Pokémon using the horns on its head. It hides when it feels hostility. It has the ability. Unknown. This Ralts knows. Psychic. Teleport. Shadow Sneak. Confuse Ray and Disable. Naruto widened his eyes in surprise. Psychic is an advanced move for any psychic type. He had high hopes for her to know the attack cause of her performance with a spoon. She used Psychic on it to feed herself. Cute but lazy, still cuter than lazier though. The other things that surprised him were the 2 ghost type moves in her arsenal, not to mention the move Disable. She must be a well-bred. A well-bred is a Pokemon who was born with an advanced genetic. For example, Shadow Sneak and Confuse Ray may have come from a ghost-type Pokemon. Or something happened to her because of those men. Naruto narrowed his eyes at the dex that should have told him her current ability. Apparently his Ralts had an unknown ability. This could be very troublesome later on, but what's life without a challenge? Shizuka. Naruto called out her name to get her attention. Shizuka dropped what she was doing in order to listen to her father-brother, perhaps best friend. She never met her father, so it's quite understandable for her to think of Naruto that way. Shizuka, the moves you got now are very impressive to say the least. But as of right now, we're too weak, so we have to train. When it comes to training a Ralts, that's to become a Gardevoir. Most people would train it in special attack, as Ralts are known for knowing a vast majority of moves. We'll be doing things differently. Ralts nodded in understanding. Though she's still confused in what exactly her trainer is going to train her in. We'll be training you in dodging, so watch out for the rock, Shizuka. Ralts still looked confused, but it soon turned into fear when she saw a rock pass her head and hit a tree a few ways behind her. She carefully glanced back and saw a comical hole in the tree bark. Her face showed horror like never before, and Naruto, he just smirked haughtily and began to cackle like a madman. He's so gonna have fun with her training, that's for sure. Poor little Ralts didn't know what she just got herself into. It was 3 hours later when they finally stopped training. Ralts was eating her lunch, which was a sandwich with sliced berries. Naruto was re-evaluating Shizuka's training. It was surprisingly easy and effective. She managed to dodge the stones after 15 hits. After an hour, she managed to catch a few stones with her psychic powers. What he didn't expect is for her to learn double team. It's gonna be useful against the gym he would be going up against. It's a fighting type gym at Dewford Town. One of the lesser gyms known in Hoenn, but that'll have to do. For now he'll follow Shizuka's example and sleep. Naruto and Ralts traveled further into the woods after some breakfast the next day. He was hoping to maybe catch a fighting type Pokemon. But no luck so far on that department. Ralts was perched on his shoulder and was currently looking around like a curious puppy. It was weird how she could look so cute yet be serious once training. Okay, Shizuka, time for training. Naruto said to his partner. Shizuka turned serious, dropped from his shoulder and looked up at him, determination practically etched onto her face. Well, that's one thing he and Ralts shared. They only show the bare minimum of their faces. We'll be training you in evading again. Once you can effortlessly dodge rocks for an hour straight, we can go on with the next exercise. Oh, and every time you get hit, we restart that hour, Naruto stated. Shizuka nodded and waited for Naruto to throw rocks. As Shizuka expected, Naruto threw a rock at her. Thing is, it flew in a wide arc above her, which made it quite slow. She kept looking at it weirdly before shrugging and waited for it to come a bit closer before dodging. Only to hit the ground as another rock hit her head along with the one Naruto threw high up in the air. Shizuka looked confused. The first rock was a diversion. Shizuka. Naruto smiled at the blue-headed Pokemon. Watch out next time. The training was great was what Naruto would have liked to say, but Shizuka had to restart the hour 32 times. And they've been at it for almost 3 hours already. But he couldn't have been any more prouder of her. That doesn't mean that he won't be acting like a softie around her, no. He would be tough and train her hard when he needs to be. Right now was just the beginning stages of Ralts' training though, she's still young after all. That being said, Naruto was walking through the forest ever since cutting off of the route since earlier that day. He in fact was kinda surprised that he hasn't met a Pokemon yet. Normally, Pokemon would blossom in these parts of the forest. Away from civilization. He was currently checking his surroundings with a visor to check if anything interesting might pop out. Sadly, nothing did. After a few more hours of walking, Naruto eventually decided to take a break. It's getting late anyway, he thought while looking at the orange-colored sky. He set up a camp at a clearing he coincidentally found. Whilst preparing food, Naruto sat down on a thick log where he then proceeded to think about his game plan. The gyms around the region shall prove to be my Pokemon stepping stones to achieve the bigger picture. The league should also help them and myself some more in experience and in battling. Not to mention the money you get when you win. I could use that to pay off some debts, Naruto thought, thinking about gathering some money for himself and to pay Nurse Joy back where it is due. Another thing I need would be a fully fledged team that's hopefully close to elite level by the time I venture off to Unova. You see, Naruto decided early on to visit every region before going back to Sinnoh in a few years' time. Due to heavy research, Naruto found out about 2 regions whose Pokemon are only found in that very same region respectively. But enough about that. Naruto is more concerned about the Pokemon he should eventually catch. I shouldn't rush this. I'll stumble upon them when the time is right, but for now he looked at Shizuka, who was expectantly waiting for food. She sat beside him, staring intently into the pot where Naruto was cooking the Namikaze Uzumaki special broth of thy heavens. Ramen. Even Naruto had to drool. Though it also brought a few painful memo. Ralts. A painful squeal brought Naruto away from his melancholy thoughts. Naruto saw that his Ralts was tearing up. So he picked her up and put her on his lap and gently stroked her head. Ralts quickly hugged her trainer. There, the pain will go away soon, okay? Ralts. Shizuka looked up to him teary-eyed. Of course it will go away. Naruto gave her an eye smile. Apparently, Shizuka got a little too curious and burned herself on the pot. Naruto took its hand and blew on it to help her forget the pain. It helped as Ralts blushed furiously for embarrassing herself in front of her trainer. Naruto smiled. I'll worry about more Pokemon later. I certainly am already happy with just this one. On a mountain, place yet to be known, stood a black serpent-like behemoth of a beast. If one could see it right, you would say that this is in fact one of the most terrific-looking draconian figure to ever exist. The creature screeched at the night sky and ventured off to the sky. Why that? Rayquaza protected it after all. 2 years later. It has been 2 years since Naruto started his adventure around the globe. Safe to say that the experience was great, with a great deal of trouble that seems to follow a certain rule book. Naruto was rather neutral to this, as it tended to give his Pokemon a lot of practice. It was a necessary evil, so to speak. And speaking of Pokemon, Naruto now has 2 full teams and an additional 3. And both of them were strong enough to fight Pokemon just under elite level. Naruto attended both of the league tournaments even though he shouldn't have. Certain inconveniences almost forced him not to join one. In hindsight, almost all of the trainers were pathetically weak. That doesn't mean his Pokemon never got the chance to gain experience from battling strong trainers and their Pokemon. Oh, on the contrary. There were enough skilled poachers around to hunt, unfortunately or fortunately, it depends on the point of view. Naruto even watched some recordings of the league matches he missed, and even he had to sweat drop at the battles. They were really lackluster and was pretty boring to say the least. He caught a lot of Pokemon in Hoenn, and that led to a lot of problems. He made it so that when he caught more than he could carry, that Pokeball would be sent over to the Nurse Joy and Sinnoh. And that gave both of them another set of problems they had to solve. He didn't want them to miss out on his journey, and he also didn't want to burden Nurse Joy any more than he had to. All of those problems vanished when he proved himself capable of carrying more Pokeballs. That allowed him to take his starter anywhere he goes, and then also allow him to catch a new batch of 7 to train. Speaking of Gardevoir, she turned out to be a brilliant Pokemon, and that was a given. His starter was anything but mediocre. Her psychic prowess were top-notch and may even surpass those of the Alakazam family line. That was something which surprised Naruto. He knew the Gardevoir family were renowned for their psychic prowess and versatility. Seriously, Gardevoir was one hack's Pokemon. Add all the moves this shiny has learned over 2 years of constant fighting and training plus teleport, and you get a nearly untouchable fairy. Fairies, now that was a day Naruto will never forget. The day he found out that fairies can't be touched or hurt by dragon-type moves, only physical ones would hurt as if it was just a normal scratch from a Charmander, but then again, Gardevoir was trained to at least be able to block something like that. It turned out to be useful against moves like Dragon Claw or, God forbid, Draco Meteor. Of course, his dumb decision to join both of the leagues made a few of his more battle-happy members content. But he knew the drawbacks of that would cause him more trouble in the long run. Even Gardevoir adopted some kind of motherly character right after evolving, probably to help with his workload. He didn't even know where or from whom she got that from. She spoke in that condescending tone of hers to those that would make trouble for her trainer, and that basically made her the mother hen of the family, even though she was the youngest. His team members loved his starter Pokemon, as if she was their little sister they need to protect, and that led to a few troublesome situations. A story for another time. Because as of right now, Naruto decided to finally return back to Hoenn and see what Brendan and May are up to. He was currently in the living room of his house in Sinnoh. Naruto let the place be renovated after he saw how much money he actually had. The day he found out was also quite funny. It was right after he won the grand festival in Hoenn. What? You thought Naruto would just go out there and catch Pokemon? Hell nah. For one, he wouldn't have survived the first month if it hadn't been for Ralts and her spectacular battles in gyms and performances in contests. One does receive prize money after all. The many tournaments he joined around the Hoenn region were also quite fun, and the prizes even more so. And it worked as a good exercise for his Pokemon. He just didn't realize the amount of money he won, and so, like any kid, he spent nearly all of it on a renovation for his house that would take a year to complete. Yeah. Safe to say the following weeks weren't really comfortable. Luckily he caught a plane that was leaving for another region. Naruto wasn't picky at that time, so he just decided to board the plane and see where it would take him. And as it turned out, he actually arrived at the region he wanted to visit, namely Johto. The same place where he first found a fairy, as well as the region where his dear Kirlia decided to finally evolve into the Gardevoir she wanted to become. There were a lot of Pokemon he wanted to have, but ultimately decided not to catch too many. There was one bug-type Pokemon whose region he really wanted to visit, especially with how cool he actually is. Yeah, that tarantula is one awesome bugger. But we're getting off track. After finishing his year in Johto, Naruto returned back home to relax. And so we find ourselves in Naruto's less than humble abode. Seriously, the things he found in his new home was nothing to scoff at. Originally, his house was located near the Pokemon Center, but after a few calls, it was decided to just rebuild the house completely because of the lack of space. Now, his villa can be found a few ways above the village and an inbuilt dome inside the mountain itself. There it had different man-made habitats like a big lake and some ponds here and there, a swampland, a tropical forest, a grass field and some rocky terrains here and there. Sure, it made him broke, but it was worth it in the end. There's also a very big living room with a TV, couches, controlled waterfalls and even a stylish hearth. Naruto was sitting on the couch whilst all of his Pokemon were sitting around him and their one little group of friends. It was fairly quiet since Naruto went on and called it a day, so the Pokemon decided to talk a bit before joining their trainer in his sleep. Pokemon speech on. So how was Johto, newbies? Said a draconian figure with a hint of arrogance and tilt of mischievousness in his voice. The Pokemon from Johto bristled at the jab and wanted to retort, but before any of them could do anything, a calm but piercing voice reprimanded the Earth Dragon. Lay off on them, you overgrown mole. They can't take your jokes just yet, he snorted. Then it's good to start early, right? A melodic laugh echoed from a beige serpentine Pokemon. I agree with the little one here. I suppose he was the last of us that Naruto captured of the originals. That's why he feels for them. She didn't know it, but that comment angered the Johto Pokemon a bit. The hehe creepy laugh rung around the living room. If you can scare them then they're nothing but kids to me, said a Pokemon that was floating through the Johto team's bodies. They cringed at the creepy little thing. He may have been small, but they knew he was powerful. We aren't scared. We're just creeped out, said a squeaky dark-colored feline. Cute. But you can forget that tough girl-act, little girl stated a humanoid being with distinct features of a bird rather proudly. The fact that she had a distinctive type advantage over the weasel-like cat was also a big intimidation factor. The feline flinched at being caught. Hey. Would you quit it with the intimidating spiel? She's still young. Said a big weasel in justified anger. She just scoffed at the fellow fire-type starter. He bristled. But before he could do anything, a stern but somewhat loving voice spoke up. The Johto Pokemon sighed in relief when they realized who that voice belonged to. Alright, that's enough, my friends. We don't need any animosity between us. The Johto Pokemon comically cried tears of joy at their trainer's starter. Wow. Gardevoir is the best sister ever. They cried. The Hoenn team just sweat dropped at their little sister, who would have thought that timid Ralts they met back in Hoenn would become such a mother hen. It wasn't much longer after she evolved that she took up the mantle of being this caring mother they see in front of them. They're there. Mom is here. Gardevoir said to the little Sneasel in her arms. The group sweat dropped again. A blue crocodile-like Pokemon suddenly spoke up. So, I guess it's time for us to introduce ourselves, right? Gardevoir nodded at him and gave the original team a slight condescending glare to keep them from their less than stellar tendencies. I guess we should start first as it's our responsibility as the older mons to take care of you munchkins. The fully evolved Pokemon in the Johto group just gaped at Shizuka. I'm Gardevoir, or you could even call me Shizuka. Whatever you prefer. The pseudo-legendary grunted Garchomp. Naruto's ace. And don't you forget that. I'm melodic. If you find anyone more beautiful than I, then I believe your blindness shall cost you the wrath of Gardevoir here. Because no one is more beautiful than her. Her fanaticism to Gardevoir aside, she's quite an elegant Pokemon. As you see, I'm the resident ghost in this little house. My name is Bennett, a pleasure, Gahehe. The green reptile-like Pokemon opened his closed eye septal. That's it. Don't mind him, it's just the way he is. I'm Blaziken, by the way. And who are you, cutie? He blushed. I'm tight to Flosion, miss his nervousness causing his back to stand ramrod straight and stiff. Blaziken giggled. She loved messing with Pokemon. A whipping sound caused the others to laugh at Tiflosion's expense. He just glared at his friends. The older Pokemon just smirked and looked at the green reptile to see his reaction. He twitched, causing them to grin. Everyone knew about his crush on his fellow Hoenn starter, but she seems to be oblivious to it. Her flirting with other males certainly put a damper on him, but he didn't say anything, not even now. The green sauropod-like Pokemon looked at Sceptile with a little blush though. This didn't go unnoticed by a certain fire starter. Blaziken narrowed her eyes at the grass type. And who are you, girlie? She asked a bit dangerously at the grass type starter. The others gave her knowing grins which she ignored. The feelings were mutual. She jumped at being forced into a conversation. That didn't stop her from introducing herself in her usual bubbly self. I'm Meganium. Nice to meet you all. Blaziken just scowled at her. Garchomp grinned and whispered something to a very big bird. said Bird grinned at him before introducing himself to stop an incoming cat fight. I'm Pidgeot and as you can see, the only flying type here until now. He said while looking at a bat with 4 wings and some white bird that looks like a jet. Said jet-looking Pokemon looked up at the 8-feet-tall bird in awe and admiration. The bat looked at him in awe as well. It took them a few seconds to realize the unspoken question. I'm Crobat. A dual flying and poison type if you don't know. Odgicus. I'm a flying fairy type. Pleasure to meet you. And who are you? Asked a feminine feline to the last Pokemon of the original group. She was looking up at him as he was perched on the top part of the sofa. He was resting and calmly opened his eyes to look at the one who asked him. Isn't it common courtesy to introduce oneself first before asking another? The light violet female Pokemon blushed in embarrassment. His friends looked at him with a knowing grin which kinda pissed him off. I mean, what's their problem? I'm Espion from the EV line. You two right. I've never seen an evolution with your typing before, what are you? She asked in wonder. The midnight-colored feline gracefully stood up and slowly descended and landed in front of her with such grace, it'd make a model green in envy. The blue circles and lines in his body giving him an additional ethereal feel under the moon, seen behind a big opening covered by glass. A slow snowfall giving him an additional grace to the fluidity in his movements. All Espion could do in this moment was to blush and stay quiet, lest she makes a fool out of herself. The name's Umbreon. It feels good to meet another of my race. Feels good couples touching another of my race family marriage, and with that final thought, Espion fainted. The group of Pokemon were quiet, not expecting such a reaction. Umbreon bro, I think you overdid it a bit with the grace and beauty factor. That was surprising indeed. Now I believe that it's your turn to introduce yourselves. Everyone except Sceptile, Garchomp and Umbreon jumped when they heard Gardevoir's cheery voice. A Pokemon of the Johto group coughed awkwardly. I guess it's our turn then. I'm Feraligatr. You already know her, but I suppose it's okay to introduce her again. She's Meganium. The horn weasel beside her is Typhlosion, as you already know. Blaziken smiled at him demure, causing him to blush and look the other way. His desire to lash out at being called a horn dog, or in this case horn weasel, momentarily forgotten. We're the Johto starters. They said while giving some weird pose meant for trios. You've been waiting to do that, right? Garchomp's sweat dropped. The sheepish grins were all the confirmation he needed. He chuckled in good fun at them though. Knowing that they were still quite young even when they reached the final stages of their respective evolutions. The others nodded at the introduction and looked expectantly at the dark ball curled up on Gardevoir's lap. She shied away from the looks and buried her face into Gardevoir's stomach. The shiny empathizing Pokemon smiled calmly at her and pushed her towards her group. Come on little one. They won't bite. Her mother-like smile gave the little Pokemon the needed confidence to introduce herself. My name is Sneasel. And I'll become the strongest ice type in the world. The others looked at her impressed. A good goal indeed. One where she really has her work cut out for herself. Garchomp smirked at her. Well then I guess that's a good dream. Sneasel smiled. But totally impossible for a wimp like you. She face faulted. I'm no wimp. I'll show you that even I can beat someone like you. Then show me. The day you beat me will be the day I'll declare you the strongest ice type on this planet. Sneasel looked shocked at the challenge but smiled eventually. Deal. Both of them were all smiles now but were interrupted in their bonding time by Gardevoir. Aw, weren't you too precious? I knew you had it in you, Garchomp. And the dam broke. Gardevoir's comment let loose condescending smirks and snorts towards the prideful dragon. Oh, did I just see Garchomp being nice? It's the end of the world, isn't it? Everyone take cover. Apocalypse is upon us. I thought this day would never come. Garchomp and Sneasel sitting on a tree. KISSIN.